The watchmaker's evening routine, the fading light. The town grows quiet as the afternoon slips into evening. The sunlight, which had been warm and golden across the cobblestone streets, begins to soften now, turning amber and gentle. Shadows lengthen across the old stone buildings, and the air itself seems to settle, becoming cooler, slower, more peaceful. In the heart of the town, on a narrow street lined with shops that have stood for generations, there is a watchmaker's workshop. The window displays rows of pocket watches, their faces gleaming softly in the fading light. Above the door, a painted sign reads simply, "Timepieces. Repairs. EST 1847. The letters have faded over the years, but they remain legible, comforting in their permanence. Inside the workshop, the watchmaker stands at his workbench. He is an older man, with silver hair and gentle hands that move with the certainty of decades. Around him, the workshop is filled with the sound of ticking, soft, layered, rhythmic. Dozens of clocks line the walls, their pendulums swinging in steady arcs, their gears turning invisibly within polished cases. The watchmaker does not hurry. He never has. Time, in his workshop, is not an enemy or a taskmaster. It is simply there, like the wooden beams overhead or the worn floorboards beneath his feet. It moves at its own pace, and he moves with it. He glances toward the window. Outside, the last customers of the day are making their way home. A woman with a basket passes by. A man in a long coat walks slowly, his footsteps quiet on the stones. The world is winding down, preparing for rest. The watchmaker sets down the small screwdriver he has been holding. The pocket watch before him, a silver piece with delicate engravings, is complete. He has replaced a tiny gear, cleaned the mechanism, adjusted the balance wheel. It ticks now with perfect regularity, each second marked with quiet precision. He lifts the watch carefully and holds it to his ear. Tick, tick, tick. The sound is soft, like a heartbeat, steady and reassuring. He nods, satisfied, and places the watch gently on a square of soft cloth. The evening light continues to fade. The sky outside has turned to pale blue, then violet. A few early stars appear, faint and distant. The street lamps along the cobblestones flicker to life, their gas flames casting warm, wavering light onto the pavement. The watchmaker moves toward the front of the shop. His footsteps are slow, deliberate. The floorboards creak softly beneath him, a familiar sound, as much a part of the workshop as the ticking itself. He reaches the door and turns the brass key in the lock. The bolt slides into place with a gentle click. He pauses there for a moment, looking out through the glass. The street is nearly empty now. A horse-drawn cart passes, its wheels rolling quietly over the stones. The driver nods to no one in particular, his face peaceful in the lamplight. Then the cart is gone, and the street is still. The watchmaker turns the sign in the window so that it reads closed. The word is painted in simple black letters on white wood. He has turned this sign every evening for as long as he can remember. It is part of the rhythm of his day, as steady as the ticking around him. He moves back into the workshop, leaving the fading world outside. Inside, the lamps are not yet lit, and the room exists in a kind of twilight, soft and gray. The clocks continue their work, marking time whether anyone is listening or not. The watchmaker walks to the small stove in the corner. It is an old cast-iron piece, blackened with use, but it still provides steady warmth. He opens the grate and adds a few pieces of wood from the basket beside it. The wood is dry and light, and it catches quickly. Small flames flicker to life, their light dancing across the walls. He closes the grate and stands there for a moment, warming his hands. The fire crackles softly, a gentle sound beneath the ticking. The workshop begins to feel warmer, cozier. The evening chill is kept at bay. Now he moves to light the lamps. There are 3 of them in the workshop, one on his workbench, one on a shelf near the window, and one hanging from a hook near the back wall. They are oil lamps, simple and reliable. He lifts the glass chimney of the first, strikes a match, and touches the flame to the wick. The wick catches, and a warm, golden light blooms in the glass. He replaces the chimney carefully and adjusts the wick until the flame burns steady and even. The light spreads across the workbench, illuminating the tools there, the tiny screwdrivers, the magnifying glass on its brass stand, the rows of gears and springs in their wooden compartments. He moves to the second lamp, then the third, lighting each one in turn. The workshop fills with warm light, soft and golden. The shadows retreat to the corners, and the room feels smaller now, more intimate. It is a place separate from the world outside, a place where time moves at its own pace. The watchmaker returns to his workbench. He pulls out the tall wooden stool and sits, adjusting his position until he is comfortable. Before him, the workbench is covered with watches in various states of repair. Some are complete, ticking quietly. Others are opened, their inner workings exposed, waiting for his attention. But there is no urgency. The night is long, and the work will be done when it is done. For now, he simply sits, listening to the ticking around him. Each clock has its own voice, some deep and slow, others quick and light. Together, they create a kind of music, layered and steady, filling the workshop with rhythm. Outside, the last of the daylight fades. The sky turns from violet to deep blue, then to black. The stars grow brighter, and the moon, a thin crescent, rises above the rooftops. The town settles into stillness. Inside the workshop, the watchmaker begins his evening routine. He reaches for a small brass pocket watch that sits on the workbench. It is an old piece, its case worn smooth by years of handling. He opens it carefully, revealing the white face with its Roman numerals and delicate black hands. He winds the watch slowly, turning the small crown with his thumb and forefinger. The mechanism inside resists gently at first, then gives way, accepting the winding with quiet clicks. He winds until he feels the slight resistance that tells him the spring is fully wound. Then he stops, closes the case, and sets the watch aside. The ticking continues. The fire crackles. The lamps burn steady and warm. The evening deepens, and the watchmaker moves through his routine with the ease of long practice, each motion deliberate, each moment unhurried. Time, in this place, is not something to be chased or feared. It simply is. And as the watchmaker works in the warm lamplight, surrounded by the soft, steady ticking of 100 timepieces, the workshop feels like the most peaceful place in the world. The winding. The watchmaker sits quietly at his workbench, the lamplight casting a warm glow across his hands. Before him, arranged in careful rows, are the pocket watches and small clocks that require his attention this evening. Some are his own, pieces he has collected over the years. Others belong to customers, left in his care for cleaning or repair. Each one is different in size, in design, in the particular voice of its ticking. But each one is treated with the same gentle care. He reaches for the first watch in the row. It is a silver pocket watch with a smooth case, worn bright from years of handling. The chain attached to it is delicate, each link polished and perfect. He opens the case with a soft click, revealing the white enamel face beneath. The hands point to the correct time, moving smoothly across the dial. The watchmaker holds the watch to his ear and listens. The ticking is faint, slower than it should be. The mainspring is running down. He nods to himself, understanding. The watch is tired. It needs to be wound. He takes the crown between his thumb and forefinger and begins to turn it. The motion is slow, rhythmic. Click, click, click. With each turn, the spring inside tightens, storing energy, preparing to release it in measured, steady increments. The watchmaker does not rush. He winds with care, feeling the resistance of the spring grow gradually stronger. When the spring is fully wound, he stops. He holds the watch to his ear again. The ticking is stronger now, steady and clear. Tick, 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 each second marked with precision. He smiles just a little and sets the watch gently on the cloth beside him. The next watch is larger, a gentleman's pocket watch with a gold case. The surface is engraved with delicate scrollwork, vines and leaves that curl around the edges. The watchmaker runs his thumb over the engraving, feeling the slight grooves in the metal. Someone took great care in making this piece, he thinks. Someone wanted it to be beautiful. He opens the case. The face inside is cream-colored, with Roman numerals in black. The hands are slender, shaped like sword blades. The watch is not ticking. It has stopped sometime during the day, its spring unwound, its mechanism silent. The watchmaker winds it slowly. The crown turns smoothly, and after a moment, he feels the familiar click as the gears engage. The watch begins to tick. Softly at first, then with more confidence. Tick, tick, tick. The sound joins the others in the workshop, adding another voice to the layered rhythm. He sets the time carefully, moving the hands with a small lever on the side of the case. He watches the second hand begin to move, sweeping smoothly around the dial. When he is satisfied, he closes the case and places the watch beside the others. The fire crackles softly in the stove. The warmth has spread through the workshop now, and the air feels comfortable, neither too hot nor too cool. The lamps burn steadily, their flames barely flickering. Outside, the night has fully settled. The street is dark except for the glow of the street lamps, and no one passes by. The watchmaker continues his work. He reaches for a small mantel clock, no larger than his hand. It is made of dark wood, polished to a shine, with brass fittings at the corners. The face is simple, with Arabic numerals and black hands. It is a plain piece, but well made, and it has kept time faithfully for many years. He turns the clock over and opens the small door on the back. Inside, the mechanism is visible: brass gears, a coiled spring, a pendulum hanging from a thin rod. The spring is unwound, and the clock is silent. He inserts a winding key into the hole on the back and begins to turn. The key is small, shaped like a T, and it fits perfectly into the square shaft. He winds slowly, feeling the spring tighten with each rotation. The key clicks softly as it turns. Click, click, click. The sound is rhythmic, almost musical. When the spring is wound, he removes the key and closes the door. He sets the clock upright on the workbench and gives the pendulum a gentle push. It swings once, twice, and then settles into a steady rhythm. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The sound is deeper than the pocket watch's, slower, more deliberate. It fills the space around the workbench, adding a lower note to the symphony of ticking. The watchmaker sets the time on the clock, moving the hands carefully until they align with the others in the workshop. He watches the pendulum swing for a moment, satisfied, and then moves on to the next piece. There is a rhythm to this work that he finds deeply comforting. The repetition of it, the winding, the listening, the adjusting, requires just enough attention to keep his mind occupied, but not so much that it becomes stressful. His hands know what to do. His ears know what to listen for. The motions are familiar, practiced, almost meditative. He reaches for another pocket watch, this one with a copper case that has aged to a warm, reddish brown. The case is smooth, with no engravings, but it feels good in his hand, solid and well made. He opens it and finds that it is still ticking, but slowly. The spring is nearly unwound. He winds it carefully, adding tension to the spring, restoring its energy. The ticking grows stronger, more confident. When he is done, he sets it aside and reaches for the next. One by one, he works through the row of watches and clocks. Some need winding. Some need only to be checked, their springs still holding enough tension to last through the night. He listens to each one, holding it close to his ear, feeling the vibration of the mechanism through the case. The ticking surrounds him now, a layered soundscape of different rhythms and pitches. Some watches tick quickly, their escapements moving with rapid precision. Others tick more slowly, their mechanisms designed for different purposes. But all of them are steady. All of them are reliable. They mark the passage of time without judgment, without haste. The watchmaker pauses and looks around the workshop. The walls are lined with shelves, and each shelf holds clocks and watches of various kinds. Grandfather clocks stand in the corners, their long pendulums swinging in slow, hypnotic arcs. Wall clocks hang at regular intervals, their faces glowing softly in the lamplight. Pocket watches sit in rows, some in glass cases, others on small velvet cushions. He stands and walks to one of the grandfather clocks. It is a tall piece, made of oak, with a brass face and ornate hands. The pendulum swings behind a glass panel, a heavy brass disc that catches the light as it moves. The clock is still ticking, but the weights that power it have descended nearly to the floor. It is time to win them. He opens the glass door on the front of the clock and reaches inside. There are 2 chains, each attached to a weight. He pulls on the first chain, hand over hand, raising the weight slowly. The chain clinks softly as it passes through his fingers. When the weight reaches the top of its track, he moves to the second chain and repeats the process. The clock continues to tick throughout, undisturbed by the winding. The pendulum swings steadily, and the hands move smoothly across the dial. When both weights are in place, the watchmaker closes the door and steps back. He listens for a moment, making sure the rhythm is correct, and then nods to himself. He moves to another clock, then another. Each one receives the same careful attention. The winding keys turn. The springs tighten. The pendulums swing. The hands move forward, marking the passage of time in their own quiet way. The workshop is filled with sound now, a symphony of ticking and talking, each voice distinct but harmonious. It is not a jarring sound, not overwhelming. It is steady, predictable, calming. It is the sound of order, of systems working as they should, of time itself made audible. The watchmaker returns to his workbench and sits down. His hands rest on the surface, palms down, feeling the smooth wood beneath them. He closes his eyes for a moment and simply listens. The ticking fills his ears, fills his mind, and for a moment there is nothing else. No worry, no hurry, no thoughts of what must be done tomorrow. Just the ticking, the warmth, the stillness. When he opens his eyes, the lamplight seems softer, the room more peaceful. He reaches for the next watch and begins to wind it, his movements slow and deliberate as the evening deepens around him. The polishing. The watchmaker sets down the last of the newly wound watches and pauses, his hands resting lightly on the workbench. The ticking surrounds him, steady and layered, a constant presence that fills the workshop with quiet life. He glances toward the window. Outside, the night is deep and still. No movement on the street. No sound from the town beyond. It is as if the world has settled into sleep, leaving only this small room of lamplight and time. He reaches beneath the workbench and pulls out a wooden drawer. It slides open smoothly, revealing rows of soft cloths, each one folded neatly. Some are cotton, others flannel, and a few are made of chamois leather, specially chosen for their softness. He selects a square of clean cotton, pale and well-worn, and sets it on the bench beside him. Polishing is an important part of the evening routine. The watches and clocks in his care are not merely functional objects. They are crafted with care, designed to be beautiful as well as accurate. Brass cases, silver chains, glass faces, all of them gather dust and fingerprints over time. The watchmaker believes that a timepiece should be as clean and bright as the day it was made, or as close to it as care and attention can make it. He reaches for a pocket watch with a brass case, one that has been sitting on the shelf for some time. The case has dulled slightly, the bright gold color faded to a softer, matte finish. He holds it under the lamplight and examines it. There are no scratches, no dents. It simply needs attention. He folds the cloth around his fingers and begins to rub the case in small, circular motions. The cloth moves smoothly over the brass, and almost immediately, the metal begins to brighten. The friction is gentle, just enough to lift away the dullness without damaging the surface. The watchmaker works slowly, covering every part of the case. He polishes the front, the back, the curved edges. He pays special attention to the engravings, running the cloth carefully over the raised lines and delicate patterns. The brass begins to glow in the lamplight, warm and golden. When the case is bright, he opens it and examines the face. The crystal covering is clean, but the edge of the bezel has a faint line of tarnish. He folds a fresh corner of the cloth and works on the bezel, rubbing gently until the tarnish is gone. The bezel shines now, a perfect circle of polished metal surrounding the white dial. He closes the case and holds the watch up to the light. It gleams softly, reflecting the lamplight in warm flashes. He nods, satisfied, and sets it aside on the cloth. The next piece is a silver pocket watch, larger than the first, with a chain that has lost some of its luster. The silver has oxidized slightly, leaving faint gray patches on the surface. The watchmaker knows that silver requires gentle care. He selects a piece of flannel and folds it carefully. He begins with the chain, working on each link individually. The flannel slides over the silver, lifting away the tarnish with patient, repetitive strokes. Link by link, the chain brightens. The gray fades, replaced by the cool, bright shine of polished silver. When the chain is complete, he moves to the case. He polishes it in the same way, slow, circular motions, applying just enough pressure to restore the shine without scratching the surface. The watchmaker's hands are steady, his movements practiced. There is no hurry. The night is long, and this work is part of what makes it peaceful. The fire crackles in the stove, and the warmth continues to fill the room. The lamps burn steadily, their flames enclosed safely in glass. Outside, the wind stirs slightly, rustling the leaves of a tree near the window. The sound is faint, distant, like a whisper from the world beyond. The watchmaker finishes polishing the silver watch and sets it beside the others. He picks up a small brass gear from one of the compartments on his workbench. It is no larger than a coin, with delicate teeth around its edge. It will be installed in a clock mechanism tomorrow, but for now, it sits with the other spare parts, waiting. He polishes the gear carefully, making sure each tooth is clean and bright. The brass glows in the lamplight, and the gear feels smooth and perfect in his hand. When he is satisfied, he places it back in its compartment and closes the lid. There is a row of small tools on the workbench: screwdrivers, tweezers, files, a tiny hammer. Each one is made of steel or brass, and each one is prone to dulling if not cared for. The watchmaker selects a cloth and begins to polish the tools, one at a time. The screwdrivers come first. There are 5 of them, ranging from a size so small it could be used on spectacles to one large enough for heavier work. He rubs each handle, each shaft, each tip, until the metal is clean and bright. The handles are made of wood, dark and polished smooth by years of use. He wipes them gently, removing any dust or oil. The tweezers are next. They are delicate instruments made of spring steel, with tips so fine they can lift a single gear tooth. He cleans them carefully, making sure no dust remains between the arms. When they are clean, he tests them, opening and closing them gently. They move smoothly, perfectly aligned. The file is small, with a wooden handle and a steel blade covered in fine teeth. He wipes it down with the cloth, removing the metal dust that has accumulated in the grooves. The blade shines when he is finished, and he sets it back in its place on the workbench. The watchmaker's hands move with quiet efficiency. There is a satisfaction in this work, in the act of cleaning and restoring, in making something dull bright again. It is a small thing, perhaps, but it matters. Each tool, each watch, each piece of brass or silver deserves care. He turns his attention to the glass cases that line the shelves. Inside them, pocket watches are displayed on small velvet stands. The glass is clean, but over time, dust settles on the surface, and fingerprints appear where customers have leaned close to examine the pieces inside. He selects a soft cloth and a small bottle of glass cleaner, a simple solution of water and vinegar that he makes himself. He dampens the cloth lightly and begins to wipe down the glass. The cloth moves in smooth, even strokes from top to bottom, side to side. The glass becomes clear, transparent, reflecting the lamplight without distortion. He works his way along the shelves, cleaning each case in turn. The watches inside remain undisturbed, their faces glowing softly in the clean glass. Some are ticking. Others are still, waiting to be wound or sold. All of them are arranged neatly, each one given its own space, its own moment of display. When the cases are clean, the watchmaker steps back and looks around the workshop. The lamplight reflects off the polished brass and silver, off the clean glass and bright steel. The room seems to glow, warm and inviting. Everything is in its place. Everything is cared for. He returns to his workbench and sits down. His hands rest on the surface, and he notices a small smudge on the wood, a fingerprint, perhaps, or a bit of oil from a gear. He takes the cloth and wipes it away, restoring the smooth, clean surface. There is a small mirror on the wall above the workbench, hung there so he can see the clock behind him without turning around. He notices that the mirror has gathered a thin layer of dust. He stands and wipes it clean, revealing his own reflection in the glass, an older man, with silver hair and kind eyes, illuminated by the warm glow of the lamps. He sits down again and folds the cloth neatly, setting it aside. The polishing is complete. The workshop is clean, bright, and orderly. The ticking continues, unchanging, a steady pulse that fills the space and the silence. The watchmaker closes his eyes and listens. The sound is soothing, almost hypnotic. Each tick is a small marker, a note in an endless song. Together, they create a rhythm that is both complex and simple, a pattern that repeats without ever becoming tiresome. He opens his eyes and reaches for the next watch. There is always more to do, always another piece that needs attention. But there is no rush. The night is long, and the work is gentle. Outside, the world sleeps. Inside, time moves quietly forward, marked by the soft, steady ticking of 100 clocks. The listening. The watchmaker sits at his workbench, his hands still, his breathing slow and even. The polishing is complete, and the tools are arranged neatly before him. The workshop glows softly in the lamplight, every surface clean, every piece of brass and silver bright. But now, he does something that might seem unusual to anyone watching from outside. He simply sits and listens. Listening is as much a part of his craft as winding or repairing. Perhaps more so. A watchmaker must learn to hear the smallest irregularity, the faintest hesitation in a mechanism. The human ear, when trained and patient, can detect things that no tool can measure. And so the watchmaker listens. The ticking surrounds him, filling the workshop with sound. It is not a single sound, but many, dozens of clocks and watches, each with its own voice, its own rhythm. Some tick quickly, their escapements releasing energy in rapid bursts. Others tick slowly, their pendulums swinging in long, measured arcs. Together, they create a soundscape that is both complex and harmonious. The watchmaker closes his eyes and lets the sound wash over him. He does not try to focus on any one clock. Instead, he listens to the whole, to the way the sounds blend and overlap, creating patterns within patterns. It is like listening to a forest, where the rustling of leaves and the calls of birds combine into a single, living presence. After a moment, he opens his eyes and turns his attention to a specific clock, a small mantelpiece on the shelf to his left. It is made of walnut, with brass fittings and a white porcelain face. The hands point to the correct time, and the clock is ticking. But something about the sound is not quite right. He stands and walks to the shelf. He lifts the clock carefully and brings it back to the workbench. He sets it down gently and leans close, his ear just inches from the case. He listens. Tick, tick, tick. The sound is steady, but there is a faint hesitation, a tiny pause between each tick that should not be there. The escapement is catching slightly, perhaps on a speck of dust or a gear tooth that is not perfectly aligned. The watchmaker nods to himself. He has found the problem. He opens the back of the clock and examines the mechanism. The gears are clean, the spring is properly tensioned. But when he looks closely at the escapement, the small lever that rocks back and forth, releasing the energy from the spring one tick at a time, he sees a tiny particle of something, perhaps lint, caught on one of the teeth. He reaches for a pair of tweezers and removes the particle carefully. It is so small it is barely visible, but it is enough to cause the hesitation. He blows gently on the escapement to make sure nothing else remains, then closes the back of the clock and listens again. Tick, tick, tick. The sound is smooth now, perfectly regular. The hesitation is gone. The watchmaker smiles, satisfied, and returns the clock to its place on the shelf. He sits down again and returns to his listening. This time, he focuses on a grandfather clock in the corner. It is a tall piece, nearly as high as the ceiling, with a long pendulum that swings behind a glass panel. The clock is ticking steadily, but the watchmaker hears something else, a faint creaking sound, almost like a sigh, that comes with each swing of the pendulum. He walks to the clock and opens the glass door on the front. He reaches inside and steadies the pendulum with his hand, stopping the motion. The creaking stops as well. He examines the suspension spring, the thin strip of metal from which the pendulum hangs. It is slightly bent, causing it to rub against the inside of the case with each swing. The watchmaker adjusts the spring carefully, bending it just a fraction of a millimeter until it hangs perfectly straight. He releases the pendulum and gives it a gentle push. It swings smoothly now without sound. The ticking resumes deep and regular, and the creaking is gone. He closes the door and returns to his workbench. The listening continues. There is a rhythm to this work, a kind of meditation. The watchmaker does not think about the past or the future. He does not worry about tomorrow's tasks or yesterday's troubles. His mind is focused entirely on the present moment, on the sounds around him, on the subtle variations that tell him when something needs attention. He listens to a pocket watch on the workbench. It is ticking, but the sound is slightly fast. He picks it up and holds it to his ear. The beats come too quickly, rushing ahead of where they should be. The balance wheel is out of adjustment. He opens the back of the watch and locates the small lever that controls the speed. It is called the regulator, and it moves along a scale marked fast and slow. He shifts it just slightly towards slow, then closes the watch and listens again. The ticking is still too fast, but less so. He opens the watch again and makes another small adjustment. Then he closes it and listens. This time, the speed is correct. The ticking is steady, neither rushing nor lagging. He sets the watch down and moves on to the next. The fire crackles softly in the stove. The warmth continues to fill the room, and the air is comfortable still. Outside, the night is quiet. A dog barks in the distance, a single sound that fades quickly into silence. The wind stirs the branches of the tree near the window, and the leaves rustle softly, then settle. The watchmaker listens to each clock and watch in turn. He does not touch all of them. Many are running perfectly, their mechanisms clean and well adjusted. But he listens to each one, making sure, confirming. It is part of the routine, part of the care that keeps the workshop running smoothly. There is a wall clock near the window, an old piece with a brass pendulum and a painted wooden face. It has been in the workshop for many years, and it has always kept perfect time. But tonight, as the watchmaker listens, he hears a faint rattling sound with each tick. He stands and walks to the clock. He opens the glass door and reaches inside, running his fingers over the mechanism. He finds the source of the rattle, a small screw that has worked itself slightly loose. He tightens it carefully, just a quarter turn, and the rattling stops. He listens again. The ticking is smooth, clean, without any extraneous sound. He nods and closes the door. The workshop feels deeply peaceful now. The ticking is everywhere, a constant presence that fills the space without overwhelming it. The watchmaker has learned to find comfort in this sound, to let it calm his mind and settle his thoughts. It is like the sound of rain on a roof or waves on a shore, endless, repetitive, soothing. He returns to his workbench and sits down. He picks up a small pocket watch, one that he carries with him during the day. It is a simple piece, with a silver case and a white face. He winds it carefully, listening to the clicks as the spring tightens. When it is fully wound, he holds it to his ear. The ticking is perfect. Steady, regular, without hesitation or variation. It is a sound he knows as well as his own heartbeat, and it brings him comfort. He sets the watch down and leans back on the stool. His hands rest on his knees, and he lets his eyes close once more. The ticking surrounds him, fills him, becomes the only thing he is aware of. His breathing slows, matching the rhythm of the clocks. His mind quiets, releasing the small concerns of the day. In this moment, there is only the workshop, the lamplight, the warmth, and the endless, gentle ticking. Time moves forward, but it does not hurry. It simply is. And the watchmaker, sitting in the center of it all, listens. The adjustments. The watchmaker opens his eyes slowly, returning from the deep stillness of listening. The workshop is unchanged, warm, bright, filled with the layered ticking of many clocks. But now, having listened carefully, he knows what needs to be done. There are small adjustments to make, minor corrections that will ensure each timepiece continues to run smoothly through the night and into the days ahead. He reaches for a pocket watch that sits on the workbench, one that he has been meaning to examine more closely. It is a gentleman's watch, gold-plated, with Roman numerals and delicate hands shaped like leaves. The watch is ticking, but when he listened to it earlier, he noticed that the ticking was uneven, slightly hesitant, as though the mechanism was unsure of itself. He opens the back of the watch with a small tool, revealing the movement inside. The gears are arranged in precise layers, each one turning at a different speed, each one connected to the others through tiny teeth that mesh together perfectly. In the center of the mechanism is the balance wheel, a small brass wheel that oscillates back and forth, regulating the release of energy from the mainspring. The watchmaker examines the balance wheel closely. It swings smoothly, but he notices that the hairspring, the delicate spiral spring attached to the wheel, is slightly out of true. One coil is touching another, just barely, and this contact is causing the irregularity in the ticking. He reaches for a pair of tweezers, so fine they could pick up a single hair. With infinite care, he separates the coils of the hairspring, adjusting them so that each one is evenly spaced from its neighbors. The spring is fragile, and too much pressure would ruin it. He works slowly, patiently, making the adjustment by fractions of a millimeter. When the coils are properly aligned, he releases the balance wheel and watches it swing. It moves smoothly now, without hesitation, the hairspring breathing in and out with perfect regularity. He closes the back of the watch and holds it to his ear. Tick, tick, tick. The sound is even now, steady and confident. The hesitation is gone. He sets the watch down gently, satisfied. The next adjustment is more straightforward. There is a small carriage clock on the shelf, a brass piece with glass panels on all four sides, allowing the mechanism to be seen from any angle. It is a beautiful clock, but it has been running slightly fast, gaining a few minutes each day. The watchmaker brings the clock to his workbench and opens the small door on top. Inside, the mechanism is visible, gears, springs, an escapement, and a small platform that rocks back and forth. Attached to the platform is the regulator, a lever that can be moved to adjust the speed of the clock. He examines the position of the lever. It is set slightly toward the fast end of the scale. He takes a small tool and moves the lever just a fraction toward slow. The adjustment is minimal, but it will make a difference over the course of a day. He closes the door and sets the clock back on the shelf. He will check it tomorrow to see if the adjustment is correct. If the clock is still running fast, he will make another small change. If it is running slow, he will move the lever back slightly. The process is one of gradual refinement, of small changes made over time until the clock keeps perfect time. The fire in the stove has burned down slightly. The watchmaker opens the grate and adds another piece of wood. The flames flicker and catch, and the warmth increases again. He closes the grate and returns to his work. There is a wall clock that has been concerning him. It is an old piece, with a wooden case and a brass face. The clock runs well, but the hands have become loose. When the clock chimes the hour, the vibration causes the minute hand to shift slightly, throwing off the time. He removes the clock from the wall carefully and brings it to the workbench. He removes the glass cover and examines the hands. They are attached to the central shaft with small friction fittings, and over time, these fittings have worn slightly. He removes the minute hand and examines the fitting. It is a brass sleeve that slides over the shaft. The inside of the sleeve has become smooth, and it no longer grips tightly. He takes a small file and carefully roughens the inside surface, creating tiny grooves that will help it grip. When he is satisfied, he slides the hand back onto the shaft and presses it firmly into place. He tests it gently, trying to move it with his fingers. It holds firm. He replaces the glass cover and hangs the clock back on the wall. The ticking continues, steady and unchanging. The hands move forward, marking time with quiet precision. The watchmaker stands for a moment, listening, making sure the adjustment has not affected the clock's rhythm. The ticking is smooth, regular. The adjustment is successful. He returns to his workbench and sits down. His hands rest on the smooth wood, and he takes a slow breath, then releases it. The work is satisfying in a quiet way. Each adjustment, each small correction, is an act of care. The clocks and watches in his workshop are not just objects. They are companions, each with its own character, its own needs. There is a pocket watch on the workbench that needs attention. It is ticking, but the sound is too loud, almost harsh. The watchmaker knows what this means. The case is loose, and the vibration of the mechanism is being amplified by the metal. He opens the case and examines the movement. It is held in place by a brass ring that screws into the case. The ring has loosened over time, allowing the movement to rattle slightly within the case. He takes a small tool and tightens the ring carefully. The movement settles into place, held firmly against the case. He closes the watch and listens again. The ticking is softer now, muted by the proper fit. The harshness is gone. He sets the watch aside and reaches for another. This one is not ticking at all. It stopped sometime during the day, and the customer who owns it will return tomorrow to pick it up. The watchmaker opens the back and examines the mechanism. The mainspring is wound, and the gears are clean. But the balance wheel is not moving. He takes a small tool and gives the balance wheel a gentle nudge. It swings once, twice, and then stops. Something is preventing it from oscillating freely. He looks closer and sees the problem. A tiny speck of something, perhaps a fiber from cloth, has lodged itself in the hairspring. He removes the speck with tweezers, so carefully that the hairspring barely moves. Then he nudges the balance wheel again. This time, it swings freely, oscillating back and forth in a steady rhythm. The watch begins to tick. Tick, tick, tick. The sound is clear and steady. The watchmaker smiles. Such a small thing, that tiny fiber, and yet it was enough to stop the entire mechanism. It is a reminder of how delicate these machines are, how much they depend on cleanliness and precision. He closes the watch and sets it with the others that have been repaired. Tomorrow, the customer will return, and the watch will be ready. The lamps burn steadily on the workbench and shelves. The flames are enclosed in glass, protected from drafts, and they barely flicker. The light they cast is warm and golden, filling the workshop with a soft glow. The shadows are gentle, not harsh, and they move only slightly as the flames breathe. Outside, the night deepens. The moon has risen higher in the sky, and its light falls through the window in pale, silver beams. The street is empty. The town is asleep. Only the watchmaker remains awake, tending to his clocks, making his adjustments, listening to the ticking that fills the room. He reaches for a small music box that sits on the corner of the workbench. It is not a timepiece, but he repairs these as well. The mechanism is similar: a spring, gears, and a cylinder with tiny pins that pluck metal tines to create notes. The box has not been playing properly. Some of the notes are silent, and the melody is incomplete. He opens the box and examines the cylinder. Several of the pins have bent, and they are no longer making contact with the tines. He takes a small pair of pliers and carefully bends the pins back into position. The work requires patience and a steady hand. Too much force, and the pin will break. Too little, and it will not play. When the pins are adjusted, he winds the music box and releases the mechanism. The cylinder begins to turn, and the pins pluck the tines in sequence. A melody emerges, a simple tune, gentle and repetitive, like a lullaby. The watchmaker listens as the music box plays. The melody is complete now, every note clear and true. When the spring winds down and the music stops, he closes the box and sets it aside. Tomorrow, it will be returned to its owner, ready to play once more. The adjustments continue. Each one is small, but each one matters. A loose screw here, a bent lever there. A spring that needs tensioning, a gear that needs aligning. The watchmaker works through each piece methodically, giving each one the attention it requires. The ticking surrounds him, constant and soothing. The warmth of the fire, the glow of the lamps, the gentle rhythm of the work, all of it combines to create a sense of deep peace. There is no urgency here, no pressure. Just the quiet satisfaction of work done well, of mechanisms restored to their proper function. The watchmaker sets down his tools and flexes his fingers. They are not as young as they once were, and the fine work requires care. He rests his hands on the workbench and looks around the workshop. Everything is in order. The clocks tick steadily. The watches keep time. The night moves forward, slow and gentle. He closes his eyes and listens once more to the ticking that fills the room. It is a sound he has known all his life, a sound that brings comfort and calm. In this moment, surrounded by the mechanisms he tends with such care, he feels at peace. The adjustments are complete, and the workshop is ready for the night ahead. The cleaning. The watchmaker opens his eyes and looks at the row of completed repairs on his workbench. Each watch has been adjusted, each mechanism corrected. But the work is not quite finished. Before any timepiece is returned to its owner or placed back on the shelf, it must be cleaned thoroughly. Even the smallest speck of dust, the faintest trace of oil in the wrong place, can affect the performance of a delicate mechanism. He stands and walks to a small cabinet in the corner of the workshop. The cabinet is made of dark wood, with many small drawers, each one labeled in careful handwriting. He opens one drawer and removes a set of brushes, some with bristles so fine they are barely visible, others slightly larger but still delicate. He also takes out several small bottles, cleaning solution, oil for the bearings, and polish for the cases. He returns to the workbench and spreads a clean cloth across the surface. He selects the first watch, a silver pocket watch that he adjusted earlier. The mechanism is running perfectly now, but the case and crystal need attention. He dips a soft brush into the cleaning solution and begins to work on the case. The brush moves in gentle circles, lifting away the accumulated dust and the faint oils from fingerprints. The silver brightens as he works, the tarnish fading, the metal returning to its original luster. He pays special attention to the engravings on the case, delicate scrollwork that curves around the edges. The brush follows the grooves carefully, making sure every detail is clean. When he is satisfied, he wipes the case with a dry cloth and holds it up to the lamplight. It gleams softly, beautiful and clean. Next, he examines the crystal that covers the watch face. There are a few tiny smudges on the glass, barely visible but present nonetheless. He breathes gently on the crystal, fogging it with his breath, and then wipes it with a soft cloth. The glass becomes perfectly clear, transparent, so clean it is almost invisible. He opens the watch and looks at the movement inside. The gears and springs are already clean. He made sure of that during the repair. But there are a few spots where excess oil has accumulated, tiny dark spots on the brass. He takes a thin strip of paper, specially made for this purpose, and touches it to the excess oil. The paper absorbs it instantly, leaving the mechanism clean and dry. Oiling is a delicate process. Too much oil, and it will spread where it should not go, attracting dust and slowing the movement. Too little, and the bearings will wear quickly, shortening the life of the watch. The watchmaker has learned, over many years, exactly how much oil each bearing needs. He takes a tiny bottle of clock oil and a fine wire with a small loop at the end. He dips the loop into the oil, and a single drop, smaller than a pinhead, clings to the wire. He touches the drop to a bearing point on the movement, and the oil spreads in a perfect, thin film. He repeats this process at each bearing, applying oil with precision and care. When the movement is properly lubricated, he closes the watch and sets it aside. It will run smoothly now for months, perhaps years, before it needs attention again. The next piece is a brass carriage clock. The glass panels are dusty, and the brass frame has dulled slightly. He begins with the glass, removing each panel carefully, and cleaning it with a soft cloth and cleaning solution. The glass becomes clear, and when he holds a panel up to the lamplight, he can see no streaks, no smudges. The brass frame requires more attention. Brass oxidizes naturally, forming a dull layer on the surface. The watchmaker takes a small amount of brass polish on a cloth and begins to rub the frame. The polish is mildly abrasive, just enough to remove the oxidation without scratching the metal. He works slowly, covering every surface. The brass begins to glow, warm and golden in the lamplight. The corners and edges, where oxidation tends to accumulate, receive extra attention. When he is finished, the frame shines as if it were new. He reassembles the clock, replacing each glass panel carefully. The clock sits on the workbench, gleaming and beautiful, the mechanism visible through the clean glass. It ticks steadily, marking time with quiet confidence. The fire in the stove crackles softly. The wood is burned down again, and the watchmaker adds another small piece. The flames catch quickly, and the warmth continues to fill the room. Outside, the night is still and quiet. No sound from the street. No movement in the shadows. Just the stillness of deep night. The watchmaker returns to his work. There is a grandfather clock in the corner that needs cleaning. The case is dusty, and the brass pendulum has lost some of its shine. He opens the glass door and removes the pendulum carefully. It is heavy, a solid brass disc attached to a long steel rod. He carries the pendulum to the workbench and begins to clean it. First, he wipes away the dust with a dry cloth. Then he applies brass polish, working it into the surface with circular motions. The brass brightens, reflecting the lamplight in warm flashes. When the pendulum is clean, he polishes the steel rod, making sure it is free of rust and tarnish. The rod gleams when he is finished, smooth and bright. He carries the pendulum back to the grandfather clock and hangs it carefully on the suspension spring. He gives it a gentle push, and it begins to swing, catching the light as it moves back and forth. The clock case is made of wood, oak, darkened with age and polished smooth by years of care. The watchmaker takes a cloth and a small amount of furniture wax and begins to polish the case. The wax brings out the grain of the wood, highlighting the natural patterns and giving the surface a soft sheen. He works his way around the entire case, from the top to the base, making sure every surface is clean and polished. When he is finished, the clock looks dignified and cared for, a piece that has stood the test of time. He closes the glass door and steps back. The grandfather clock stands tall in the corner, its pendulum swinging steadily, its hands moving across the face with quiet precision. It is a centerpiece of the workshop, a presence that has been there for as long as the watchmaker can remember. The cleaning continues. Each piece receives the same careful attention. The case is polished, the crystals cleaned, the movements oiled where needed. The watchmaker works methodically, moving from one piece to the next, making sure nothing is overlooked. There is a small pocket watch with a gold chain that needs cleaning. The chain has tarnished slightly, the gold dulled by oxidation. He takes a soft brush and cleaning solution and works on each link individually. The chain brightens, link by link, until it shines in the lamplight. He cleans the watch case with the same care, making sure the gold is bright and clean. When he is finished, he holds the watch and chain up to the light. They gleam softly, beautiful and elegant, ready to be worn again. The lamps burn steadily, their flames enclosed in glass, protected from drafts. The light they cast is warm and constant, filling the workshop with a gentle glow. The shadows are soft, barely moving, and the room feels peaceful and still. The watchmaker pauses and looks around. The workbench is covered with clean cloths, brushes, and bottles of cleaning solution and oil. The watches and clocks he has cleaned sit in a neat row, each one gleaming, each one ticking steadily. The work is satisfying in a quiet way, a reminder that care and attention matter. He takes a fresh cloth and wipes down the workbench itself, removing any dust or oil that has accumulated. The wood surface is smooth and clean, ready for tomorrow's work. He organizes his tools, placing each one in its proper place. The screwdrivers go in the wooden rack. The brushes are returned to the drawer. The bottles of oil and cleaning solution are capped and stored in the cabinet. When everything is in order, he sits down and rests his hands on the workbench. The ticking surrounds him, a constant presence that fills the workshop with rhythm. The fire crackles softly in the stove. The lamps glow warmly. The night deepens outside, and the world beyond the workshop fades into stillness. The watchmaker closes his eyes and simply sits for a moment, listening to the ticking, feeling the warmth, letting the peace of the workshop settle over him. The cleaning is complete. Everything is in order. The night moves forward, slow and gentle, and there is nowhere else he needs to be. The shelving. The watchmaker opens his eyes and looks at the row of completed work on his workbench. Each timepiece has been wound, polished, adjusted, and cleaned. They tick steadily, each one keeping time with quiet precision. Now, it is time to return them to their proper places, some to the shelves where they wait to be sold, others to the drawers where repaired pieces are stored until their owners return. He stands slowly, taking a moment to stretch. The work of the evening has been detailed and focused, and his shoulders feel the gentle weight of concentration. He rolls them back, then forward, loosening the muscles. The movement is slow, deliberate, part of the ritual of the evening. He picks up the first watch, a silver pocket watch that he polished earlier. It gleams softly in the lamplight, the chain hanging in a graceful curve. This watch belongs to a customer, a gentleman who comes to the shop every few months to have his timepieces serviced. The watchmaker knows him well, knows the care with which he treats his possessions. He walks to a tall cabinet near the back of the workshop. The cabinet is made of mahogany, with many small drawers, each one labeled with a name or a number. He opens the drawer marked with the customer's name and places the watch inside, nestling it in a bed of soft velvet. The drawer closes smoothly, and the watch is safe, waiting to be collected. The next piece is a brass carriage clock. It is one of the shop's display pieces meant to be sold. The watchmaker carries it carefully to the glass case near the window. Inside the case, other clocks and watches are arranged on velvet-covered shelves, each one positioned to catch the light, each one showing its best features. He opens the case and finds an empty space on the middle shelf. He places the carriage clock there, adjusting its position until it sits perfectly level. The brass gleams through the glass, and the mechanism is visible from all sides. It is a beautiful piece, and he hopes it will find a good home soon. He closes the case gently and steps back. The display looks balanced now, each piece given its own space, each one complementing the others. The lamplight reflects off the glass, and for a moment, the case seems to glow from within. The watchmaker returns to the workbench and picks up a small mantel clock. This one is also destined for the display, but it is too large for the glass case. Instead, it will sit on one of the wooden shelves that line the walls. He carries it to a shelf near the center of the workshop, a place where it can be easily seen by anyone who enters the shop. He sets the clock down carefully, making sure it is stable and level. The clock ticks steadily, its pendulum swinging behind a glass panel. The watchmaker adjusts its position slightly, angling it so that the face is visible from the front of the shop. When he is satisfied, he steps back and nods. There is a rhythm to this part of the work, a kind of dance between the workbench and the shelves. He moves back and forth, carrying timepieces one by one, placing each in its proper location. Some go into drawers. Some go into glass cases. Others find their places on shelves or hooks on the wall. Each placement is considered carefully. The watchmaker thinks about how the piece will look, how it will be seen, how it will fit with the other pieces around it. He thinks about the light, how it will fall on the case, how it will reflect off the glass or brass. He thinks about balance and symmetry, about creating a space that is orderly and pleasing to the eye. A grandfather clock stands in the corner, tall and dignified. It does not need to be moved, but the watchmaker takes a moment to check that everything is in order. He opens the glass door and looks inside. The pendulum swings steadily. The weights are in their proper positions. The face is clean, the hands aligned. He closes the door and runs his hand along the side of the case, feeling the smooth wood beneath his fingers. This clock has been in the workshop longer than he can remember. It was here when he apprenticed as a young man, and it will likely be here long after he is gone. It is a constant, an anchor, a reminder of continuity. He returns to the workbench and picks up another watch. This one is a gold pocket watch with an engraved case. It is a fine piece, valuable, and it has been entrusted to him for repair. The repair is complete, and now it must be stored safely until the owner returns. He walks to the cabinet and opens a drawer marked Repairs Collection. Inside, several other watches wait, each one wrapped in soft cloth to protect it from scratches. He wraps the gold watch carefully and places it in the drawer, positioning it so that it will not touch the other pieces. The drawer closes with a soft click. The fire in the stove has burned down to embers. The watchmaker opens the grate and looks inside. The coals glow red and orange, radiating warmth. He does not add more wood. The night is late, and the fire has served its purpose. It will burn down slowly, and by morning, it will be nothing but ash. Tomorrow, he will clean the stove and start a new fire. But for now, the embers provide enough warmth. He closes the grate and returns to the workbench. There are only a few pieces left to shelve. He picks up a small clock, no larger than his hand, with a brass case and a white porcelain face. It is a travel clock, designed to be carried in a case or a trunk. The clock ticks softly, its mechanism precise despite its small size. He carries the clock to a shelf near the window and places it among other small clocks and timepieces. The shelf is crowded but organized, each piece given just enough space. The travel clock fits perfectly between a pocket watch and a small desk clock, and the watchmaker adjusts its position until he is satisfied. The lamps continue to burn steadily, their flames barely flickering. The light they cast is warm and golden, and it makes the workshop feel cozy, intimate. The shadows are soft and gentle, moving only slightly as the watchmaker moves through the room. He picks up the last piece, a pocket watch with a copper case. It is an old watch, worn smooth by years of handling, but it runs beautifully. He has polished it, oiled it, adjusted its mechanism. It ticks steadily, keeping perfect time. He walks to a glass case and opens it. Inside, several pocket watches hang on small brass hooks. He finds an empty hook and hangs the copper watch there, arranging the chain so that it drapes naturally. The watch hangs beside the others, each one different, but each one cared for with the same attention. He closes the case and steps back. The shelving is complete. Every timepiece is in its place. The workshop is organized, orderly, peaceful. The ticking fills the room, a symphony of different voices, all marking time in their own way. The watchmaker walks slowly around the workshop, looking at each shelf, each case, each clock. He checks that everything is secure, that nothing is at risk of falling or being damaged. He adjusts a few pieces, moving them slightly to improve the display. But mostly, he simply looks, taking in the sight of the workshop in order. There is a satisfaction in this, a quiet pride. The workshop is not just a place of work. It is a collection, a gathering of beautiful and functional objects, each one representing hours of craftsmanship and care. Some of the pieces were made 100 years ago, or more. Others are newer, but no less valuable. All of them are here because they matter, because they deserve to be preserved and maintained. The watchmaker pauses at the window and looks out. The street is dark and empty. The street lamps glow softly, casting pools of light on the cobblestones. The moon is higher now, nearly overhead, and its light is bright and cold. A few clouds drift across the sky, thin and wispy, barely visible against the darkness. He stands there for a moment, looking out at the quiet town. Everyone is asleep, their homes dark, their fires banked for the night. But here in the workshop, the lamps still burn, and the clocks still tick. Time does not sleep. It moves forward, constant and unchanging, whether anyone is watching or not. The watchmaker turns away from the window and walks back to his workbench. He sits down and rests his hands on the smooth wood. The shelving is complete. The work of the evening has been productive and satisfying. Every timepiece has been cared for. Every mechanism has been tended. The workshop is ready for the night ahead. He closes his eyes and listens to the ticking that surrounds him. It is a sound he knows as well as his own breathing, a sound that brings comfort and peace. In this moment, with the work complete and the workshop in order, he feels deeply content. The night deepens and time moves quietly forward. The inspection. The watchmaker sits at his workbench, his hands resting lightly on the smooth wood. The shelving is complete, and every timepiece is in its place. But before the evening can truly settle into its quietest phase, there is one more task that must be done. He must inspect the shop, checking each clock and watch to ensure that everything is running as it should. This inspection is not about repairs or adjustments. Those tasks have been completed. This is about observation, about taking the time to truly see and hear each piece, to confirm that the workshop is functioning as a harmonious whole. It is a ritual that the watchmaker performs every evening, a final check before the night deepens. He stands and begins his circuit of the workshop. He starts near the window, where the glass cases hold rows of pocket watches. He opens the first case and leans close, listening to the watches inside. Each one is ticking, and he listens to them individually, distinguishing one from another by the pitch and rhythm of their sound. Tick, 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 tick. A small silver watch, ticking quickly. Tick, tick, tick. A larger gold watch, ticking more slowly. Tick, tick. Tick, tick. A copper watch, its rhythm slightly syncopated. The watchmaker nods, satisfied. Each watch is running well. He closes the case gently and moves to the next. The second case holds watches of a different style, hunting case watches, with hinged covers that protect the crystal and face. He opens the case and examines each watch in turn. Some of the covers are open, revealing the faces inside. Others are closed, their outer cases gleaming in the lamplight. He picks up one of the watches and presses the small button on the side. The cover springs open with a soft click, revealing the white enamel face beneath. The watch is ticking steadily, the second hand sweeping smoothly around the dial. He closes the cover and replaces the watch on its velvet stand. He continues along the row, checking each watch, making sure each one is secure on its stand, each one ticking properly. When he is satisfied, he closes the case and moves on. The wall clocks come next. There are dozens of them, arranged on the walls at various heights. Some are large, with ornate wooden cases and pendulums that swing in long, slow arcs. Others are smaller, simpler in design but no less precise. The watchmaker walks along the wall, pausing at each clock. He listens to the ticking, watches the pendulum swing, checks that the hands are moving smoothly. One clock, a small octagonal piece with a rosewood case, has a pendulum that seems to be swinging slightly unevenly. He opens the glass door and adjusts the suspension spring, a tiny correction that brings the pendulum back into perfect rhythm. He closes the door and listens. The ticking is smooth now, regular. He nods and moves to the next clock. The grandfather clocks stand in the corners and along the walls, tall and stately. There are 4 of them in the workshop, each one different in style and age. The watchmaker approaches the first, a tall oak piece with a brass face and moon-phase dial. He opens the glass door and looks inside. The pendulum swings with a deep, steady rhythm. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound is resonant, filling the space around the clock. The weights hang evenly, suspended from their chains. The mechanism is running smoothly. He checks the moon-phase dial. It shows a waning crescent, and he calculates quickly in his mind. Yes, it is correct. The moon outside is indeed a thin crescent, just as the dial indicates. He smiles. These old mechanisms, when properly maintained, can track the movements of the heavens with remarkable accuracy. He closes the door and moves to the next grandfather clock. This one is made of mahogany, with intricate inlays of lighter wood creating geometric patterns on the case. The face is painted with pastoral scenes, rolling hills, a distant church, sheep grazing in a meadow. It is a beautiful piece, and the watchmaker pauses to admire it before opening the door. Inside, everything is in order. The pendulum swings, the gears turn, the hands move forward. He listens for any irregularity, any hesitation, but there is none. The clock is running perfectly. He closes the door and continues his inspection. There is a mantel clock on a shelf near the center of the workshop. It is a French piece, with a marble base and gilded bronze figures on either side, classical figures, draped in flowing robes, frozen in graceful poses. The clock face is small, almost delicate, but the mechanism inside is robust and reliable. The watchmaker picks up the clock and holds it to his ear. The ticking is soft but clear, steady and regular. He sets the clock back on the shelf and adjusts its position slightly, making sure it is level. A clock that is not level will not run properly, as the pendulum will swing unevenly. The fire in the stove has burned down to glowing embers. The warmth it provides is gentler now, less intense, but still comforting. The watchmaker glances at the stove, but does not add more wood. The embers will be enough for the rest of the night. He continues his inspection, moving from shelf to shelf, from case to case. There are carriage clocks with brass frames and glass panels. There are desk clocks with leather cases and silver trim. There are alarm clocks, their bells perched on top like small brass hats, ready to ring when the appointed hour arrives. Each clock receives his attention. He listens, he observes, he makes small adjustments when necessary. A clock that has shifted slightly is moved back into position. A glass door that is not closed fully is pressed gently until it clicks shut. A watch chain that has become tangled is straightened. The lamps burn steadily, their flames enclosed in glass. The light they cast is warm and constant, and it makes the brass and silver and gold of the timepieces glow softly. The workshop feels alive with the ticking, as though the clocks themselves are breathing, each one contributing to the collective rhythm. The watchmaker approaches the workbench and looks at the tools arrayed there. They too are part of the workshop, part of the system that keeps everything running smoothly. He checks that each tool is in its place, that nothing has been left out or misplaced. The screwdrivers stand in their rack. The tweezers lie in their case. The magnifying glass rests on its brass stand. He picks up his own pocket watch, the one he carries during the day. It sits on the workbench, ticking quietly. He holds it to his ear and listens. The ticking is perfect, as it always is. This watch is special to him, not because it is particularly valuable or rare, but because it has been with him for many years. It is a companion, a constant presence. He sets the watch back on the workbench and continues his inspection. He walks to the back of the workshop, where spare parts are stored in labeled drawers. He does not open the drawers, there is no need. He simply checks that they are closed properly, that nothing has been left ajar. There is a small clock on the wall above the storage area. It is a simple piece, with a plain wooden case and a white face. It is not for sale. It is the clock he uses to keep time in the workshop, the clock he glances at throughout the day to mark the hours. He looks at it now and notes the time. The night is well advanced. The evening routine is nearly complete. He turns and walks back toward the center of the workshop. The ticking surrounds him, constant and soothing. Each clock, each watch, is doing what it was designed to do, marking time, keeping order, providing a sense of continuity. The watchmaker pauses in the center of the room and closes his eyes. He listens to the ticking, letting it fill his awareness. He does not try to separate one sound from another. Instead, he listens to the whole, to the way all the different rhythms combine into a single complex pattern. It is like listening to an orchestra, he thinks. Each instrument plays its own part, but together they create something larger, something greater than the sum of its parts. The workshop is the same. Each clock has its own voice, but together they create a symphony of time. He opens his eyes and looks around. The inspection is complete. Everything is in order. Every clock is running, every watch is ticking. The workshop is functioning as it should, a well-ordered system where each part plays its role. The lamps continue to burn, their light warm and steady. The embers in the stove glow softly, providing just enough warmth. Outside, the night is deep and still. The moon shines down on the empty street, casting long shadows across the cobblestones. The watchmaker walks back to his workbench and sits down. His hands rest on the smooth wood, and he takes a slow, deep breath. The inspection is complete. The evening routine is nearly finished. The workshop is ready for the quiet hours ahead. The stillness. The watchmaker sits at his workbench, his hands resting gently on the smooth surface. The inspection is complete, and every clock in the workshop is running as it should. Now, as the night deepens, the workshop enters its quietest phase. This is the time when the day's work is truly done, when there is nothing left to wind or adjust or repair. This is the time for stillness. He does not move immediately. He simply sits, his breathing slow and even, his mind quiet. The ticking surrounds him, fills the space, becomes almost like silence itself, so constant, so steady, that it fades into the background, a gentle presence rather than a sound. Outside, the world is asleep. The street is empty, the town dark except for the scattered glow of street lamps. No footsteps on the cobblestones. No voices in the distance. Even the wind has settled, leaving the air still and calm. Inside the workshop, the lamps burn with their steady, unwavering light. The flames barely flicker, enclosed safely in glass. The light they cast is warm and golden, creating a small island of brightness in the surrounding darkness. Beyond the windows, the night presses close, but inside, everything is warm and secure. The watchmaker lets his eyes close. He does not sleep, not yet, but he rests in a state between waking and sleeping, a quiet place where thoughts drift slowly like clouds across a summer sky. His breathing is slow, rhythmic, matching the pace of the pendulums that swing in the corners of the room. The ticking continues, layered and complex. If he focuses, he can pick out individual clocks, the deep, resonant tick-tock of the grandfather clock in the corner, the lighter, faster ticking of the pocket watches on the workbench, the steady, measured beat of the wall clocks. But he does not focus. He lets the sounds blend together, creating a tapestry of rhythm that is both varied and unified. Time in this moment seems to slow. The seconds still pass, the clocks continue to mark them faithfully, but they feel longer, more spacious. Each moment has room to be experienced fully, without hurry, without pressure. There is nowhere to go, nothing to do. Just the workshop, the ticking, the warmth, the stillness. The embers in the stove glow softly, providing a gentle heat. The fire has burned down almost completely now, just a bed of red and orange coals that pulse faintly with each breath of air. The watchmaker can feel the warmth on his face, a comfortable presence that keeps the chill of the night at bay. He opens his eyes slowly and looks around the workshop. Everything is exactly as it should be. The clocks on the walls, the watches in their cases, the tools on the workbench, all of it arranged with care, all of it in its proper place. There is an order to the workshop that reflects the order of time itself, predictable, reliable, constant. He stands slowly and walks to the window. He looks out at the street below. The cobblestones gleam faintly in the moonlight, and the shadows of buildings stretch long and dark across the pavement. A cat walks slowly along the edge of the street, its movements graceful and unhurried. It pauses beneath a street lamp, sits, and begins to clean its paw. Then it continues on, disappearing into the shadows. The watchmaker watches the empty street for a moment longer, then turns away from the window. The world outside is quiet, at rest. And inside, the workshop shares that same quality of rest, of peaceful stillness. He walks to one of the grandfather clocks and opens the glass door. He does not need to wind it or adjust it. He simply wants to watch the pendulum swing. The brass disc moves back and forth in a steady, hypnotic rhythm, catching the lamplight as it moves. Left then right then left. Over and over, endlessly measuring time in perfect increments. The watchmaker finds himself swaying slightly, almost imperceptibly, matching the rhythm of the pendulum. It is a natural response he has learned over the years. The body wants to synchronize with regular rhythms, to fall into harmony with them. He does not resist. He lets himself sway gently, his breathing matching the swing of the pendulum. After a time, he closes the door and moves away. He walks slowly around the workshop, not inspecting now, just moving, being present. His footsteps are soft on the wooden floor, barely audible beneath the ticking. The floorboards creak occasionally, familiar sounds that are as much a part of the workshop as the clocks themselves. He pauses at his workbench and looks down at the surface. It is clean and orderly, ready for tomorrow's work. But tomorrow seems very far away. Right now, there is only this moment, this quiet space in the middle of the night when the world has paused. He sits down on the stool and folds his hands in his lap. His shoulders relax. His breathing deepens. The tension that comes from careful work, from focusing on tiny mechanisms and delicate adjustments, slowly drains away. His body settles, his mind quiets. The ticking continues, unchanging. Tick, 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 tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tick-tick. Each clock with its own voice, each one marking time in its own way. But together, they create a sense of unity, of shared purpose. They are all doing the same thing, measuring time, keeping order, providing constancy in a world that is always changing. The watchmaker thinks about time, as he often does in these quiet moments. Time is such a simple thing, really, just the measurement of change, the tracking of movement from one state to another. And yet, it is also profound, mysterious. Time cannot be seen or touched. It cannot be saved or stored. It simply flows like water, always moving forward, never backward. And yet, in this workshop, time feels different. It still moves forward, the hands still advance, the pendulums still swing, but it does not feel urgent or threatening. It feels gentle, patient, almost companionable. The clocks do not demand anything. They do not rush or pressure. They simply are, ticking steadily, marking moments without judgment. The watchmaker opens his eyes and looks at the lamp on his workbench. The flame burns steadily, a small point of light in the glass chimney. He watches it for a while, observing the way it barely moves, the way it maintains its shape and brightness without effort. It is a simple thing, a flame in a lamp, but right now it seems perfect, exactly as it should be. He thinks about the day that has passed and the day that will come. There will be customers tomorrow, people bringing their watches and clocks for repair. There will be new work to do, new mechanisms to examine, new adjustments to make. But that is tomorrow. Right now, in this moment, there is nothing to do but sit in the stillness and listen to the ticking. The moon outside has climbed higher in the sky. Its light falls through the window at a steeper angle now, creating different patterns of light and shadow on the workshop floor. The watchmaker watches the moonlight for a moment, then turns his attention back to the room. Everything is still. The clocks tick. The lamps burn. The embers glow. But there is no movement beyond that, no activity, no change. The workshop has settled into a state of deep rest, and the watchmaker rests with it. He lets his eyes close again. The ticking surrounds him, fills him, becomes part of him. His heartbeat, he realizes, has synchronized with the rhythms around him. It beats steadily, calmly, in harmony with the clocks. His breathing, too, has fallen into a gentle pattern, slow and deep and regular. In this moment, there is no separation between him and the workshop. He is part of it, and it is part of him. The ticking is not just sound. It is presence, companionship, comfort. The warmth is not just temperature. It is security, safety, peace. Time moves forward, but it does not matter. The night deepens, but it is not threatening. The world outside sleeps, and inside, the watchmaker sits in perfect stillness, surrounded by the gentle ticking of 100 clocks at peace. The reflection. The watchmaker opens his eyes slowly. The stillness remains, but now his mind begins to wander gently, not with urgency or purpose, but with the soft, meandering quality of thought that comes in the deep hours of the night. He is comfortable, warm, at peace. And in this peaceful state, memories begin to surface, quiet recollections of years past, of how he came to be here, in this workshop, surrounded by the ticking of time. He remembers being young, a boy of perhaps 12 or 13, standing in this very workshop for the first time. It looked different then, the same space, but arranged differently, with different clocks on the walls, different tools on the workbench. His master, the old watchmaker who had owned the shop before him, had been standing at the workbench, his hands steady as he worked on a pocket watch. The boy had watched in fascination as those steady hands had lifted tiny gears with tweezers, placed them with perfect precision, adjusted springs so fine they were barely visible. The old watchmaker had not spoken much. He had simply worked, and the boy had watched, learning through observation, through the quiet transmission of skill from one person to another. The watchmaker smiles at the memory. He had been nervous that first day, afraid of making mistakes, of touching something he shouldn't touch, of breaking something valuable. But the old watchmaker had been patient, kind. He had shown the boy how to hold the tools, how to look at a mechanism and understand what it needed, how to listen to the ticking and hear the stories the clocks told. "Time is patient," the old watchmaker had said once, his voice quiet and rough with age. "And we must be patient with it. Never rush. The work will be done when it is done." Those words had stayed with him through all the years that followed. Never rush. Be patient. The work will be done when it is done. The watchmaker looks around the workshop now, seeing it through the lens of those early years. So much has changed, and yet so much remains the same. The same wooden floors, worn smooth by decades of footsteps. The same windows, looking out onto the same street. The same tools, or tools very much like them, arranged on the same workbench. The grandfather clock in the corner, that had been here when he was an apprentice. He remembers the old watchmaker winding it every evening, the same ritual, the same careful attention. And now, decades later, he performs the same ritual, winding the same clock, maintaining the same tradition. He thinks about the years that have passed since then. He had been an apprentice for 7 years, learning the craft slowly, methodically. Then, when the old watchmaker had grown too frail to continue, he had taken over the shop. That transition had been both sad and necessary. Sad because it meant saying goodbye to his teacher. Necessary because the work had to continue. The clocks had to be maintained. The old watchmaker had passed away peacefully one winter night, in his sleep. The workshop had felt empty after that, despite being filled with the ticking of clocks. But gradually over time, the watchmaker had made the space his own. He had rearranged some of the displays, added new tools, developed his own routines. And the workshop had come alive again, filled once more with purpose and care. He thinks about all the clocks and watches he has repaired over the years. Thousands of them, perhaps tens of thousands. Each one unique, each one with its own story. Some had been family heirlooms, passed down through generations, their cases worn smooth by the hands that had held them. Others had been new purchases, shiny and pristine, ready to begin their own journeys through time. He remembers specific pieces that had come through the workshop. A pocket watch that had belonged to a sea captain, its case engraved with images of ships and anchors. A mantel clock that had survived a house fire, its case scorched but its mechanism miraculously intact. A delicate lady's watch, so small it fit in the palm of his hand, its face decorated with tiny painted flowers. Each repair had been a challenge, a puzzle to solve. And each successful repair had brought its own quiet satisfaction. To take something that was broken or worn and restore it to working order, there was something deeply meaningful in that, something that went beyond mere craftsmanship. The lamps on the workbench and shelves continued to burn steadily, their flames barely flickering. The watchmaker looks at them and thinks about all the evenings he has spent here, in this space, working by lamplight. Hundreds of evenings, thousands perhaps, each one similar to this one. The routine never grows old. If anything, it becomes more comforting with repetition, more familiar, more like home. He thinks about the customers who have come to the shop over the years. Some have become friends, people he looks forward to seeing when they come to collect their repaired timepieces. Others he knows only as names in the ledger, faces glimpsed briefly as they drop off watches and return to collect them. But each one trusts him with something important. A clock or watch is not just a tool for measuring time. It is often something precious, something that holds memories and meaning. When someone leaves a watch with him, they are trusting him to care for it, to treat it with respect, to return it in better condition than when it arrived. He takes that trust seriously. Every repair, no matter how small, receives his full attention. Every adjustment is made with care. Every piece is treated as if it were his own. The fire in the stove has burned down to just a few glowing embers now. The watchmaker stands and walks to the stove. He opens the grate and looks inside. The coals are barely red, providing just a whisper of warmth. He considers adding more wood, but decides against it. The night is late, and the embers will last until morning. He closes the grate and returns to his workbench. As he sits down, he thinks about the future. He is not a young man anymore. His hair is silver, his hands not as steady as they once were. Someday, perhaps not too far in the future, he will need to think about passing the workshop on to someone else, just as his master passed it on to him. The thought brings a touch of melancholy, but also acceptance. This is the way of things. Time moves forward, and people move through it. The workshop will continue, the clocks will continue to tick long after he is gone. That continuity is comforting in its way. He wonders if there is a young person somewhere, perhaps apprenticing with another watchmaker, who will one day stand at this workbench as he does now. Someone who will learn to listen to the ticking, to understand the language of gears and springs, to find peace in the careful, patient work of maintaining time. He hopes so. The craft is old, and in some ways it is fading. Fewer people understand the value of a well-made mechanical timepiece, preferring the convenience of digital watches and clocks. But there are still those who appreciate craftsmanship, who value the beauty and precision of traditional clockwork. And as long as there are people who value these things, there will be a place for watchmakers. The ticking continues, steady and unchanging. The watchmaker listens to it and feels a deep sense of gratitude. He is grateful for the skills he learned, for the patience his master taught him, for the workshop that has been his home for so many years. He is grateful for the customers who trust him, for the clocks that fill his days with purpose, for the quiet evenings like this one when the world is at rest. He thinks about the town outside, the people sleeping in their homes. Some of them have clocks he has repaired sitting on their mantelpieces or hanging on their walls. Some of them carry watches he has serviced in their pockets. In a small way, he is connected to all of them, part of the fabric of the community, helping to keep time flowing smoothly through their lives. The moon outside has moved across the sky, and its light no longer falls through the window. The workshop is lit now only by the lamps, creating a warm, enclosed space, separate from the world outside. The watchmaker looks around at the clocks on the walls, the watches in their cases, the tools on the workbench. This is his world, he thinks. This small workshop, with its ticking clocks and its warm lamplight and its sense of order and care. It is not a large world, not a grand one. But it is his, and it is enough. He closes his eyes and lets the memories fade. The past is behind him, the future uncertain. But the present moment is perfect in its stillness, its peace. The ticking surrounds him, fills him, and he rests in it, content. The gratitude. The watchmaker sits quietly, his hands resting in his lap, his breathing slow and even. The reflections have faded, and now he finds himself in a state of simple gratitude. There is no particular thought or memory occupying his mind, just a general sense of thankfulness for this moment, this place, this life he has built. He is grateful for the workshop itself, the wooden floors that creak beneath his feet, the windows that let in the daylight and frame the street outside, the walls lined with shelves, each shelf holding timepieces that have been entrusted to his care, the workbench, smooth and solid, where he has spent countless hours working. This space has been more than just a place of business. It has been a sanctuary, a place where he can focus completely on the work at hand, where the outside world fades away and only the ticking remains. It has been a constant in his life, a stable point in a world that is always changing. He is grateful for the clocks and watches themselves. Each one is a small marvel of engineering, a testament to human ingenuity and craftsmanship. The way dozens of tiny parts work together to create smooth, precise motion. The way springs store energy and release it in measured increments. The way escapements convert that energy into the regular, rhythmic ticking that fills the workshop. He thinks about the people who designed these mechanisms, the craftsmen who assembled them, the jewelers and metalworkers and artists who created the cases and faces. Most of them are long gone now, their names forgotten. But their work remains, still ticking, still keeping time, still serving its purpose decades or even centuries after it was made. There is something humbling in that, something that puts his own work into perspective. He is not creating these timepieces. He is merely maintaining them, keeping them running, preserving the work of those who came before. But that preservation is important. Without it, these beautiful mechanisms would fail, would fall silent, would become nothing more than decorative objects that no longer serve their function. He is grateful for the skills he has learned. The ability to look at a mechanism and understand how it works. The knowledge of which gear turns which other gear, which spring powers which function. The patience to work on objects so small that a single grain of dust can cause problems. The steady hands that can manipulate tweezers and screwdrivers with precision. These skills did not come easily. They took years to develop, years of practice and mistakes and patient guidance from his master. But now they are second nature, as natural as walking or breathing. His hands know what to do without conscious thought. His ears can detect the smallest irregularity in a ticking mechanism. He is grateful for the customers who come to his shop. Some bring timepieces that are family treasures, watches that have been passed down through generations. They trust him to care for these precious objects, to restore them to working order, to preserve them for future generations. That trust is a gift, and he treats it with the respect it deserves. Others bring watches and clocks that are simply useful objects, tools for keeping track of time in their daily lives. But even these deserve care and attention. A person's time is valuable, and the tool they use to measure it should be reliable and accurate. He thinks about the conversations he has had with customers over the years, the stories they have told about their timepieces, where they came from, who owned them previously, what memories are attached to them. A pocket watch carried by a grandfather during the war. A mantel clock that sat on a mother's dresser for 50 years. A wristwatch given as a gift on a wedding day. These stories give the timepieces depth, meaning beyond their mere function. They become connections to the past, links in a chain that stretches back through generations. And by maintaining these objects, the watchmaker helps preserve those connections. He is grateful for the quiet. The workshop is a peaceful place, insulated from the noise and hurry of the world outside. In here, there is no rush, no pressure, no urgency. There is only the work, done at its own pace, in its own time. The ticking provides a constant backdrop, but it is a soothing sound, not a harsh one. In a world that moves ever faster, that demands constant attention and immediate response, the workshop is a refuge. Here, time moves at its natural pace. Here, patience is not just a virtue but a necessity. Here, the old ways still have value. He is grateful for the evenings like this one, when the day's work is done and the workshop settles into stillness. These are his favorite times, when he can sit in the lamplight and simply listen to the ticking, when he can let his mind rest and his body relax. There is a deep satisfaction in knowing that everything is in order, that every clock is running well, that the workshop is ready for another day. The lamps continue to burn, their flames steady and warm. The watchmaker looks at them and thinks about the simple pleasure of light in darkness. The way the lamplight makes the brass and silver glow. The way it creates shadows that soften the edges of things. The way it makes the workshop feel cozy and intimate. He is grateful for the fire in the stove, now burned down to embers but still providing a gentle warmth. It keeps the chill of the night at bay, makes the workshop comfortable even in the coldest months. Tomorrow he will clean out the ash and build a new fire, and the cycle will continue. He thinks about the rhythm of the days, the way each one follows a similar pattern. Opening the shop in the morning, working on repairs during the day, closing the shop in the evening, performing the evening routine, winding, polishing, adjusting, cleaning. The pattern is comforting in its predictability. He knows what to expect, knows what needs to be done. But within that pattern, there is always variety. Each timepiece is different, each repair presents its own challenges. No 2 days are exactly alike, even if they follow the same general structure. There is enough sameness to provide comfort, enough variety to prevent boredom. He is grateful for his health, for hands that still work well enough to perform delicate tasks, for eyes that can still see the tiny components of watch mechanisms, for ears that can still detect the subtleties of ticking. He knows these things will not last forever. Age takes its toll on everyone. But for now, he is still able to do the work he loves, and that is a gift. He is grateful for the town that surrounds the workshop, the community that has supported his business for so many years. The people who bring him their watches and clocks, who recommend his services to others, who value the work he does. Without them, the workshop would not exist. He thinks about the street outside, quiet now in the depths of night. During the day it is busy with people going about their lives, shopkeepers opening their stores, customers walking from place to place, children playing, carts and carriages passing by. But at night it is peaceful, empty still. The workshop sits at the heart of this community, a small but constant presence. The sign above the door, faded but still legible. The window displays with their rows of timepieces. The warm light that glows from the windows each evening, a signal that someone is inside, working, maintaining order in a chaotic world. He is grateful for the passage of time itself, for the way days become weeks become years. Time brings change, yes, but it also brings constancy. The seasons cycle. The sun rises and sets. The moon waxes and wanes. And through it all, the clocks tick, marking each moment, each hour, each day. The watchmaker takes a deep breath and releases it slowly. Gratitude fills him, a quiet, gentle feeling that has no specific object but encompasses everything: the workshop, the clocks, the work, the life he has lived. He does not need to name it or analyze it. He simply feels it, lets it wash over him, accepts it as another gift of this peaceful evening. The ticking continues, steady and eternal. The night deepens, and the watchmaker sits in grateful silence, surrounded by the gentle rhythm of time. The dimming. The watchmaker opens his eyes and looks around the workshop. The night has reached its deepest point, that quiet hour when even the restless find sleep, when the world seems to hold its breath before beginning the slow turn toward morning. It is time, he knows, to begin preparing the workshop for rest. The lamps have been burning for hours now, their oil slowly consumed, their flames steady and faithful. But even they must eventually be extinguished. The watchmaker stands slowly, feeling the stiffness in his legs from sitting, and stretches gently. His movements are unhurried, deliberate. There is no rush, even now. He walks to the first lamp, the one on his workbench. He pauses before it, looking at the flame dancing inside the glass chimney. It is a small flame, golden and warm, casting its light across the tools and timepieces arranged on the surface. He has worked by this light for many hours tonight, and he silently thanks it for its service. He reaches for the small brass knob at the base of the lamp and turns it slowly. The wick descends, and the flame grows smaller, dimmer. The light fades gradually, and the shadows around the workbench deepen. He continues turning until the flame is just a tiny point, and then, with one more gentle turn, it goes out. A thin wisp of smoke rises from the wick, carrying the faint smell of lamp oil. The watchmaker lifts the glass chimney and blows softly on the wick, making sure no ember remains. Then he replaces the chimney and stands back. The workshop is darker now, but not dark. The other two lamps still burn, and their light continues to fill the space, though more dimly than before. The watchmaker walks to the second lamp, the one hanging on the wall near the back of the workshop. This lamp illuminates the storage area, the shelves where spare parts and tools are kept. Its light has been a constant presence throughout the evening, ensuring that no corner of the workshop was left in shadow. But now it too must be dimmed. He reaches up and turns the knob, lowering the wick. The flame shrinks and the light fades. The storage area recedes into shadow, the shelves and drawers becoming less distinct, merging with the darkness. When the flame is extinguished, he again lifts the chimney and blows gently on the wick. Now only one lamp remains lit, the one on the shelf near the window. Its light falls across the glass cases that hold the display timepieces, making them gleam softly in the dimness. The watchmaker walks to this final lamp slowly, his footsteps quiet on the wooden floor. He stands before the lamp and looks out the window one last time. The street outside is completely dark now. The street lamps have burned down, their flames exhausted. The moon has moved across the sky and is beginning its descent toward the horizon. The town sleeps deeply, peacefully. The watchmaker turns his attention back to the lamp. His hand reaches for the knob, but he pauses. With this lamp extinguished, the workshop will be dark except for the faint glow of embers in the stove. The warm, golden light that has filled the space all evening will be gone. But this is right, he knows. The night has its own rhythm, its own requirements. The lamps have served their purpose. Now they must rest, just as everything must rest eventually. He turns the knob, and the final flame begins to shrink. The light fades gradually, the shadows expanding to fill the workshop. The brass and silver of the timepieces lose their gleam. The wooden cases become less distinct. The entire space grows dim, quiet, subdued. When the flame is just a pinpoint, barely visible, he turns the knob one last time. The flame goes out. He lifts the chimney and blows gently on the wick, then replaces the chimney. Darkness fills the workshop. Not complete darkness. The embers in the stove still glow faintly, casting a dim red light across the floor. And through the window, the faint light of the setting moon provides the barest illumination. But compared to the warm brightness of the lamps, the workshop is now deeply, thoroughly dim. The watchmaker stands still, letting his eyes adjust. Gradually, shapes emerge from the darkness. The outline of the workbench, the tall forms of the grandfather clocks, the glint of glass from the display cases. The workshop is still here, still present, just quieter, more subdued, prepared for rest. The ticking continues, unchanged by the darkness. If anything, it seems louder now, more present in the absence of light. Each tick is clear and distinct, and together they create a layered rhythm that fills the space as completely as the lamplight did moments before. The watchmaker walks slowly to the stove. He opens the grate and looks inside. The embers glow softly, red and orange, pulsing gently. He watches them for a moment, appreciating their warmth, their quiet light. They will burn out eventually, leaving only ash. But for now, they provide just enough light and warmth to make the workshop comfortable. He closes the grate and turns away. His eyes are adjusted now, and he can move through the workshop without difficulty, navigating by memory and by the faint light from the embers and the moon. He walks to his workbench and runs his hand across its surface, feeling the smooth wood beneath his fingers. Everything is in order. The tools are arranged neatly. The timepieces are in their proper places. The workshop is clean and organized. The evening routine is complete. The watchmaker sits down on his stool one last time. He folds his hands in his lap and closes his eyes. The darkness surrounds him, comfortable and safe. The ticking surrounds him, constant and soothing. The warmth from the embers reaches him, gentle and fading but still present. He sits in the dim workshop, listening, resting, letting the day fully release its hold on him. His breathing is slow and deep. His mind is quiet. His body is relaxed. The work is done. The shop is ready for the night. Everything is as it should be. The ticking continues. Tick, 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 tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound fills the darkness, provides structure and rhythm to the stillness. The watchmaker listens, lets the sound wash over him, through him, becomes part of him. Time moves forward, marked by the faithful clocks, measured in countless tiny increments. But in this moment, time also seems to pause, to stretch, to become something other than simple progression. In this moment, past and present and future blend together, united by the constant ticking, by the dimness, by the deep quiet of the night. The workshop rests. The watchmaker rests. And the clocks keep ticking, patient and eternal, marking time in the darkness. The nights embrace. The watchmaker sits in the dim workshop, his eyes closed, his breathing slow and steady. The darkness has settled completely now, wrapping the space in its gentle embrace. The embers in the stove have faded to the faintest glow, barely visible, providing just the smallest whisper of warmth. The moon outside has descended below the horizon, leaving only the stars to light the night sky. In this deep darkness, the ticking seems to take on a life of its own. It is no longer just sound. It is presence, companionship, a living thing that fills the workshop and keeps the silence from being empty. Each tick is a small affirmation that time continues, that order persists, that all is well. The watchmaker does not move. His hands rest in his lap, his body perfectly still. He is not asleep, not yet, but he exists in that liminal space between waking and sleeping, where thoughts drift like clouds and the boundaries between self and world begin to dissolve. He thinks about nothing in particular. Fragments of the day pass through his mind. A customer's smile, the feel of a tiny gear between his fingers, the sound of a newly adjusted clock ticking perfectly. But these thoughts have no weight, no urgency. They simply drift by, acknowledged but not grasped, like leaves floating on a slow-moving stream. The workshop breathes around him. The wooden floors creak softly as they contract in the cooler night air. The metal cases of the clocks tick and ping quietly, as they too adjust to the temperature. These are the sounds of the workshop settling, relaxing, preparing for the deepest part of the night. The ticking continues, layered and complex. The deep, slow tick-tock of the grandfather clocks. The lighter, faster ticking of the pocket watches. The steady, measured rhythm of the wall clocks. All of them different, all of them unique, but all of them harmonious, creating a symphony that never ends. The watchmaker's breathing has slowed to match the rhythm of the longest pendulum, the one in the oak grandfather clock in the corner. With each swing of the pendulum, he breathes in. With the return swing, he breathes out. In and out, back and forth. His body sways slightly, almost imperceptibly, moving with the rhythm. Time has lost its usual meaning now. He does not know how long he has been sitting here. It might be minutes. It might be hours. It does not matter. The clocks keep time, marking each second faithfully, but he is no longer measuring or counting. He simply exists in the moment, which stretches out in all directions, infinite and eternal. The darkness is complete now. Even the embers in the stove have gone dark, leaving only ash. But the darkness is not frightening. It is comforting, like a blanket wrapped around weary shoulders. It is the darkness of deep night, of rest, of peace. The watchmaker opens his eyes, though there is little to see. The workshop is a collection of shadows and shapes, barely visible. But he does not need to see. He knows every inch of this space, could navigate it blindfolded if necessary. His body knows where the workbench is, where the shelves are, where the clocks stand against the walls. He stands slowly, his movements careful and deliberate. His legs are stiff from sitting, and he takes a moment to let the blood flow return to normal. Then he walks slowly toward the back of the workshop, where a narrow staircase leads up to his living quarters above the shop. His hand finds the railing in the darkness, and he begins to climb. Each step creaks softly beneath his weight, familiar sounds that mark his passage. He climbs slowly, one step at a time, in no hurry. Behind him, in the workshop below, the ticking continues. The clocks do not need him to keep working. They will tick through the night, through the hours until dawn, faithfully marking time whether anyone is listening or not. This is their purpose, their nature. They do not rest. At the top of the stairs, the watchmaker pauses. He turns and looks back down toward the workshop, though he can see almost nothing in the darkness. But he can hear the ticking, rising up through the stairwell, filling the space between the workshop and his rooms above. It is a comforting sound, a lullaby that has accompanied him every night for more years than he can count. He stands there for a long moment, listening. The ticking wraps around him like an old friend's embrace. Each clock is distinct in his memory. He knows which tick belongs to which timepiece, knows the voice of each one, as well as he knows his own. The grandfather clock in the corner, the carriage clock near the window, the pocket watch on the workbench, all of them speaking together, marking time in perfect harmony. A soft smile crosses his face, barely visible in the darkness. Tomorrow, the routine will begin again. He will descend these stairs in the morning light. He will open the shop. Customers will come and go. Repairs will be made. And when evening comes again, he will wind the clocks, polish the cases, adjust the mechanisms, and sit in the lamplight listening to the ticking. But that is tomorrow. Tonight, the work is complete. The workshop is at rest, settled into its deep nighttime rhythm. Everything is exactly as it should be. The watchmaker turns away from the stairs and moves toward his bed. Even here, in his quarters above the shop, he can hear the ticking, muffled but present, a gentle reminder that time continues its patient work. He removes his shoes, places them neatly beside the bed, and lies down, pulling a thick quilt over himself. The bed is comfortable, the quilt soft and warm. He settles into the mattress, his body releasing the last remnants of the day's efforts. His head rests on the pillow, and he closes his eyes once more. Below, the ticking continues. Steady, constant, eternal. Tick, tick, tick. The sound drifts up through the floorboards, fills the room with its gentle rhythm. It is the sound of order, of continuity, of time moving peacefully forward through the night. The watchmaker's breathing slows, deepens, matching the rhythm of the clocks below. His mind drifts, thoughts becoming softer, less distinct, like fog settling over still water. The workshop, the clocks, the ticking, the warmth, the peace. All of it blends together into a feeling rather than thoughts, a feeling of contentment, of completion, of everything being exactly where it needs to be. The night deepens around him. Outside, the town sleeps. The streets are empty and quiet. The stars will slowly overhead, marking time on a grander scale, but marking it nonetheless. Everything in its place. Everything in its rhythm. And in the workshop below, the clocks tick on. Tick, tick, tick. The sound grows softer now, or perhaps it is simply that the watchmaker is drifting deeper into sleep. The boundary between waking and sleeping becomes thinner, more permeable. The ticking seems to come from everywhere and nowhere, from inside and outside, part of the world and part of himself. His breathing becomes even slower, barely perceptible. His body relaxes completely, surrendering to rest. The day is done. The evening routine complete. The workshop cared for. Everything in order. The ticking continues, a gentle pulse that fills the darkness. Tick, tick, tick. Softer now, fainter, but still there, always there, marking time, keeping watch, while the watchmaker, and the workshop, and the world, rest, in the gentle, peaceful, darkness, of night. The clocks tick softly in the darkness. Time moves forward, patient and eternal. All is well. All is at rest. Sleep comes gently, naturally, like the closing of a book at the end of a long, satisfying story. The night embraces everything in its quiet peace, and morning will come when it comes, in its own time, as it always does. Rest now. Let the ticking carry you. Let time do its work. Everything is cared for. Everything is well. Sleep.